Loud. There we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third class of Reinvention of Work. I am going to change the slide. So this week, as we do every week, we're going to do some welcome. Well, as you can hear, I'm welcoming and welcoming. We're going to do a little centering. And we're going to talk a bit about facing the challenges on our reinventing work journey. We'll make sure we get some time and dialogue. Again, as we've said, this is an incredible group of people, and I want you to not only be hearing from me, but from one another. And then, of course, give you the planning for the week ahead and close. And if you have any questions for me along the way, don't hesitate. So bringing John O'Donohue into our circle here today. And I will read his blessing for work, and then we'll take a few moments in silence just to center and ready ourselves for our time together. May the light of your soul bless your work with love and warmth of heart. May you see in what you do the beauty of your soul. May the sacredness of your work bring light and renewal to those who work with you and to those who see and receive your work. May your work never exhaust you. May it release wellspring of refreshment, inspiration, and excitement. May you never become lost in bland absences. May the day never burden. May dawn find hope in your heart, approaching the new day with dreams, possibilities, and promises. May evening find you gracious and fulfilled. May you go into the night blessed, sheltered, and protected. May your soul calm, console, and renew you. May your soul calm, console, and renew you. So our group norms, as we know, just to remind us again, is that we always want to try to make space for all to speak, which you all do so well. Practicing respect, that willingness to look again, that we guard confidentiality with each other, that we can share what we learn, but we don't share identifying details about others, so that everyone can feel safe and comfortable sharing. I will turn off the video when you all are sharing, so that space will be guarded. Exercising care and consideration, not only for others, but also what do you need, watching your growing edge, where might be too much, where might not be enough, and always finding ways to contribute. So each week we have been doing art as meditation and reflection. And as you've heard from me many times, integration is a great learning tool. So I want to make sure you have some time to reflect with each other. So this week, I want you to think about what's been arising as you have read and wrote and reflected, sharing, of course, as you do each week. How did you practice art as meditation, and what did it yield? And I am going to stop sharing for a second so that I can make out breakout groups. And let's see here. I think we need. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to move just a couple people here. So no, that should work. Okay. You have groups of 2 and 3, and I will bring you back in 15 minutes. I'm going to make sure. I don't think I had to make sure. I don't know if there's a timer on this. It's not showing. Oh, here we go. Oh, automatic close after 7 minutes. No, we want after 15. There we go. All right. Here we go. I will see you all back in 15 minutes. Enjoy your conversation. And bring back up our slides. Here we go. All right, so on we go. We've been talking about work as a pilgrimage of identity using David White's wonderful subtitle or second title for his book. And what I value is this week as we move into the via negativa, into that place where we have realized, okay, the work that we're doing isn't quite it, or it really, really isn't it, is that we move into that place of intensification and chaos. And sometimes we need that to be able to really say, okay, time to reboot on our work. When I was doing research on the way of conflict, as you know, as you've been reading, you know that the archetype that shows up for this phase is being a pilgrim. So I just love that synchronicity, and pilgrimage for me has become a really important spiritual practice. So if you ever get excited about walking the Camino de Santiago and you want to talk to someone who's addicted to it, you can drop by and give me a call. It has become a very wonderful way for me to recenter, to reboot, and to learn about the via negativa. When we are on pilgrimage of whatever form, it's this call to face the unknown. It's that stepping out with the vision that we created yesterday, saying, I want to go here. I want to envision a world where there is no hunger, or that war is obsolete, or women and children are always safe in their own homes. So we have this direction, but as we walk out, we face the unknown. And when we're on pilgrimage, it becomes so clear to me that it's not something that we do alone. Even though it's a solitary experience in so many ways, the power is, Mary Beth was just describing, is that we can find in community. And the magic that comes in that. So when we're in the via negativa, when we're in that place of chaos, is recognizing a team. Always wonderful to have a team. It calls for us to be flexible, to pace ourselves, and to be humble. I love that the word humility and humble comes from humus, or earth. And it's that sense that we're not less than, but we're just all the same on this earth, that we're all born, we're trying to figure out this crazy game of life, and that someday we will return to the source from where we are and where we've come. So another piece of humility is having a great sense of humor, is giggling when everything just keeps falling apart and you want to yell, really? Really? Oh, that too. So especially when you're working in this place of grief. I remember when I was teaching a class on thriving through tough times, and a woman was sharing about when her father had passed away very suddenly, and just sharing how that she and her sisters went to a football game just randomly in the days after he had passed. And she said they sat in the stands and laughed uncontrollably. And she said everyone thought they were completely crazy, but it was one of the healthiest things that she had ever done. So we are counseled with the via negativa to just rest, in whatever ways and forms, because when we're in this place of not knowing, disruption, often we find we're in grief, burnout. That real disequilibrium is we don't know what's next. We don't really know what's coming. And so how can we slow down? It's like we're in fog. How can we find ways to nurture ourselves and rest and recover? Creativity, it requires energy. Usually when we hit the via negativa, whenever it shows up, whether it's around our work or other parts of our lives, we're pretty wiped out. And so how can we do as little as we possibly can, all the while finding ways to nurture ourselves? So meditation is the practice of this phase. Always, as you know, each week as we bring this to our work is, again, the two models of the Fourfold Way from Angela Sarian. She would call this time the way of the teacher. And she says that you are to be open to the outcome, not attached to the outcome. We find this in the Bhagavad Gita, which says that we are to bring all of ourselves to our work, but not be attached to the fruits. Not always easy. And that's the way of the teacher. You teach and you hope to be as effective as you can, but you don't know what seeds you're planting and where they're actually going to bloom. Matthew Fox, through creation spirituality and the via negativa, counsels us to let go and let be, and to attend to our suffering, allowing that to be in its way a pilgrimage and a practice of a spiritual practice. We had a way that things were. And no matter, even if they are ending and we're kind of glad they're ending, there's still some grief. A wise friend said to me, she said, if I look at my life as 50% grieving, that it becomes easier. And this recognition that new forms are always coming, this importance of impermanence, this connection to really what this universe is about, which is no thing, and no thingness. When we look at this world of tables and chairs and paintings behind my head, it's actually a super, super tiny part of what the universe is. I mean, we have dark matter, and then we just have dark nothingness, and that these forms are just a tiny part of the whole, and that they are impermanent. What I have found that's helped me to move through the via negativa, to see it as an opportunity, is it recenters me into what I really value. What am I going to do even if nobody likes me? What am I going to do even if what would I do anyway? And it is very much a time of allowing. So these first two phases of, it's like, okay, that old form's not working. All right, here I am. And allowing ourselves to, as I said, rest, recover, and reassess. Another way to think of this from a creation spirituality standpoint is this difference between God and Godhead. And Matthew Fox talks about this in a number of his works. And it just, when I learned about creation spirituality and started to study at the University of Creation Spirituality, this was a new one for me. I had not been raised to understand that there was God and then Godhead. We see it in the Hindu tradition of the different gods, Vishnu and Krishna and Kali. But then there is the greater all that these gods come from. We in the Christian tradition, I'm using creation spirituality that came out of the Christian tradition with Matt. It has as well, the Christian tradition has this sense of Godhead, the God that goes beyond all understanding. And the Buddhist tradition, we are reminded of this. Pema Chodron talks about, how do we work with no ground? We think we have ground under our feet, but we really don't. And how do I kind of come back to the sense that, wow, this is so much bigger and vaster than I am ever going to comprehend? And, how do I hold that mandorla, like we were talking about last week, of being open to the path and taking care of ourselves all at the exact same time? So what does active surrender look like? What does choice surrender, the opposites there? The way that I can sort of understand this is that the via negativa calls me to hold tightly with an open hand. How do I hold tightly with an open hand? The Taoist tradition helps me with this. It's about how we have form and essence. So we've been talking about forms, but then there's this underlying essence that the form might take. The essence of all of you, and you think of all of the different forms that you have appeared in throughout your life. And work as well, this sense of this greater purpose that we carry within us. And yet the forms in which we bring that purpose forward are going to continue, potentially, maybe hopefully, are going to shift and change. So the playing with this paradox, it's the joy of Zen koans and all of this. And this space of this place of potentiality and yet nothingness that our three-dimensional bodies have to inhabit and figure out in the via negativa, in this chaos phase. So I bring all of this up very much because we can get stuck in any of these phases. We can spin out in fight, flight, and we can get stuck. And you've read about that in the way of conflict. And so, especially in this phase, it can be super, super uncomfortable, where it's like, okay, that old work, the way I've been envisioning work is so not working, but I have no idea what I'm going to need to do next. And meanwhile, for many of us, we also still need to work. Oh, and just for our mental health, we want to be out in the world and serving. So how to recognize that this is a phase that really calls us, as you're saying, to just relax. Because what I find when I'm coaching, and a number of you do coach and others of you are teaching, is that when people will come to me in this place, they're like, but I can't figure it out. I want to figure it out. And I just don't have energy for anything. Is our bodies are kind of wired to not allow us to be creative if we're exhausted. So creativity needs energy. And the thought of how do I work with exhaustion and burnout? As we talked about in our first week, is the idea of being a wise farmer. In the good old days, or at least in the real northern climates like here in Montana, you can't plant a wheat field in the middle of winter. It's the time that you slow down, you rest, recover, you sharpen the tools, you find ways to store the seeds so that they're safe, so there's that sense of care and safety and slowing down, because spring's going to come and there's going to be 12-hour days. So this is the time to fill our inner bucket. I wanted to pass along, and I'll give you access to all of these slides. This was a wonderful slide that came up. I co-taught this course with a wonderful young man named CJ Carter, and he does work on the Blackfoot Reservation and has been, they have been dealing with so much loss and burnout on the reservation. So he brought forward these two slides that I thought you might find of interest. So the first is about about burnout and the brain. And I love that stress doesn't cause burnout. It's, stress and inadequate support, resources is, inadequate with an inadequate support and resources causes burnout. So being kind to ourselves that, we can all get there. We're all under stress. But what CJ was bringing forward, and I wanted to bring to all of you, is this concept of collective care instead of just self-care. And recognizing that it's easy for all of us to get into that place, and our communities can be set up and supportive in a way to say, we need to take breaks, we need to slow down. He brought forward this, how easy it is for us to get into a place of burnout. We start out and there's a lot of work and we're really excited. And maybe some of you felt like this at the beginning of COVID, where it's like, okay, I've got this, got my cape on, I'm going to go. I'm going to work longer, I'm going to work harder. But you keep pushing. And as it says here, long days that we need sleep, we need time to rest and relax, and reset, but we keep pushing. And then the symptoms will start to come up, like fatigue and anxiety and forgetfulness, and we might struggle with our quality of sleep. And then those chronic stress and frustration might show up. And if we keep going, we can get ourselves into a situation where our bodies just go, I don't want to do this anymore. And symptoms may appear that get us to really slow down, whether we want to or not. And so I think this was helpful, is just to recognize, again, we've been through almost 2.25 crazy years that had craziness before them. And I just wanted to pass along how my work with speaking in the world of work and working with corporate clients, everyone I've talked to is just exhausted. And they've just been trying and trying and trying. So I think, we have multiple epidemics here, pandemics, epidemics, and being burned out, I think, is one of them. So being kind to ourselves and those that we're serving, that we are really being called to find ways to rest and recover. I wanted to pass all these along to you because I felt like these models were really helpful. But how we can get into, how do we end up in a place of burnout? Is, we're entering a field or a job or a time frame, and we're just like, okay, we've got this, we've got energy and enthusiasm. We might deal with some work-related stress, some job satisfaction, and this first stage is this disappointment and fatigue goes into frustration and indifference. And then we can really, when our bodies are like, we're not going to do this anymore, just powerlessness, feelings of failure, isolation, and apathy. I'm going to ask you a question on this next slide, but I love that when I asked this question 2 days ago, some of these environmental activists I was working with said, I feel really lonely. And I thought that was helpful, is that recognition when we get into this feeling, this place of burnout, is that it can feel lonely. And that's one of another, really can be a sign for us. So I pass, so what would you all say as you think about what, as we deal with feeling, work-related stress, or just work, or just stress in general that we've all been working with, what are some of the emotions that you might feel just before you feel overworked? What comes up for you when to help you to know, I'm in the via negativa and I need a break? What might, you can maybe even add them in the chat. What comes up for you? Disappointment. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Others. Impatient. Yeah, everybody bugs me. It makes a lot of sense to me. Irritability, annoyance. Yeah, exactly. Defeated. Right. That these can be clues for us. Compassion fatigue. So true. Lack of energy, desire to withdraw into my shell. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And just so knowing that our feelings and our bodies, this loneliness, so that resonates for you as well. I really felt that. Like, okay, I'm tired of being a hero. It's not working. These are wonderful. And as we've talked about these 4 phases of change, is that we have our emotions, instead of going, oh, I shouldn't feel. Instead, it's, oh, I'm feeling that. I must be in this phase. Oh, okay, I'm in the via negativa. I need this. And that has been, for me anyway, a huge clue. And again, I wanted to pass along these great slides to you and make sure that you have them. So this all comes from this mental health resources for volunteers. And so many of you have been work in helping professions, have worked in helping professions, and or have such a deep need, deep desire to serve. Thought this would be helpful. So is it burnout prevention? What recharges you? Rest, reading, moving our body, housework, arts and crafts, times with friends, taking a break, meaning and purpose. What might you add that helps you to reset, recenter? What comes up for you? Oh, I love that. Pretending to be interested. Oh, I know that one. Yeah, it's like, I really do care, but I want to go to bed now. What helps you? For me, moving my body is critical. Time in nature is nice. Be careful of what you watch, listen to, surround yourself with. Nice. So creating a more nurturing environment, cycling, walking in the woods, letting myself daydream, movement, music. These are our healing salves as we refill our inner buckets. This is great. Oh, thank you all for adding to that. So this idea of refilling our inner bucket, it's been another helpful tool for me as I think of myself and go, oh, I got burned out again. How'd that happen? Is this recognition that it's like we have an internal bucket. And especially when I'm dealing with grief, it's like holes get poked in the bottom of my bucket. And so it takes a lot more goodness and juju to get into, that feeds that inner bucket, that gives me creativity and energy. It takes more. And I have found in times of COVID, it's, I was able to pull off getting energy. It didn't take as much as it's taking now in terms of downtime and these healing salves. So thinking about what brings you joy. When I was dealing with a real dark night, my dark night of the soul, where I could not get myself out of it, my husband wisely said to me, do one thing each day that brings you joy. And I remember my bucket feeling so dry that it would I'd do it and the world still felt gray, but it was working. So how do we say no to absolutely anything that is not a strong yes? And how do we find something each day that brings us joy? Might be watching a sunset or looking at our four-legged friends, playing with them. I did want to bring up this idea of moving from self-care to collective care, and how, and I wonder if this is our collective work in our communities, in the greater world, is moving from not just thinking about how I can have this privilege of self-care, but how do we start to create containers of collective care, making sure that everyone has food. I'm thinking of how the World Kitchen is on the border of Ukraine, and making sure that there's food each day for everyone, no matter what. There is some amazing work coming out of the African American activism community around pleasure activism. And I'm turn you on to Adrienne Marie Brown. Some of you may know about their awesome work. And Adrienne says, where there's food, there's justice. That there's this connection between food and justice, music and justice, rest and justice, movement and justice. So how, as we're organizing and trying to do this great work, and I know all of you as lovers of creation spirituality are thinking about as part of our work is care for this planet, is how do we bring a place of pleasure? Again, filling our own inner buckets, that of our community, and also tapping into the power of play. Another great book, Stuart Brown wrote a book called Play, and we'll come back to that one. Really the power if we add play in. So for those of you who are working with groups, is how do you make, as we talked about earlier, the power of ritual, add play in as a tradition, so that we do karaoke on Friday afternoons, or we have birthday parties, the first Tuesday of the month. We turn on music and dance around the office or dance around the synagogue, making sure that play, humans love play. I love this. We run game nights in my creativity group every week for people just to relax, unwind, share our grief, pain, hobbies without judgment. And yeah, all the research says that will create greater social cohesion. It allows us to integrate trauma, and it's just darn fun. Oh, thank you for bringing that forward. That's fantastic. So rest and recover and reassess in this phase. So I want to put you, if you don't mind, again, it's been a lot of me talking. I wanted to put you into small groups again, just for, let's see, it should work. I was going to put you in for just 8 minutes, put you in pairs, and just allowing yourselves to notice, how are you faring? Where are you right now? What was resonating as we've been exploring burnout and collective care, again, so you can learn from each other, and what might you need at this time? So we're just going to keep using the adult learning technique of reflection as an important part of integrating learning. All right, so I am going to stop the share for a second. Oh, I'm going to start the recording again, and we're going to go back to, let's see if we can do this. Removing, there we go. Okay. Oh. All right, hopefully I'm still there. Let's see, trying to share. I love, okay, here we go. There. Okay, so we've been rest, recover, and reassess. Did that show back up? Hopefully. Pick the right screen, not restart Zoom really quickly. So this idea of when we're in this phase, and we've been talking about this, I'm feeling as you all are sharing, is this recentering around what feels right and true, what we're here for, what we want to spend time on. When we look at ethical leadership, and as I work with these amazing activists around the world, as I've come to realize to talk to them about ethical leadership, because we all say, oh, I want to be an ethical leader. It sounds like a really good thing. Is that what helps us is to think about our values and our vision as decision-making tools. And how do we keep coming back to them, especially when we're in the via negativa, when we're in chaos. Like we're sharing all sorts of great books. One of them that many of you have probably read is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And Daniel, Nobel Prize winner, around how we think. We have in our brain the fast thinking brain that uses kind of previous connected synapses that says, Oh, when I see this, I do this. When I see a stop sign, I stop. Very great part of our brain, but there's a other very important part of our brain that's the slow thinking brain. It's what I would, if I asked you, to divide 16,432 by 53, your brain will probably go, ugh, it's like, oh, she wants me to do that by, I have to do that on paper. Where's paper? We slow down. We think, okay, how do we do long division? I haven't done that in a while. And it calls us into this place of slow thinking. But it's where we do complex thinking. And it's in many ways, a lazy part of our brain. When we're dealing with ethical decisions, when we're in a workplace that is dysfunctional and we're trying to figure out how to move it forward in ways it's never been moved before, we need to use our slow thinking brain. And so it's kind of an extra foggy part of our journey when we're in this, I know this old structure so is not working, but where we go next. So our compass and our North Star. Our compass is our values. Our North Star is our vision. Can help us to move ahead and to make decisions in ways to set us in a place where we want to be going. Instead of, I got to get myself out of this, I'm going to use fast thinking brain and go. This does bring us back again into the power of community. We also need to crowdsource and ask and learn. This isn't hero work. It is hosting work, dialogue. Here's what I want. This is how I'm thinking. What am I missing? It's really, this is a part of our lives where it's, what am I missing? And we're getting to do that together in community here. And again, you can tell how happy and blessed I feel to get to do this with you. So to develop our values, our code of conduct has been connected all through hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, to our shield. There's a great book called, I think it's the Shield of the Warrior. I'll send it to you. John, you will very much appreciate this. It's written by a woman who teaches at the Naval Academy, teaches ethics at the Naval Academy. And she says that if we can think of our code of conduct like our shield, we go back to the Spartan warriors that would say you need to come back with your shield or within it, is that we never leave our values. What we find is that it regulates the power of the warrior. And we've been talking about that you each are leaders, and that this has been codified in the archetype of the warrior over thousands of years. But we need our power regulated. It protects not only the people that we're working with as you're doing all of this work, but it also protects you. If we stay within our code of conduct, we stay within our values, and if there's shared values across our different professions, it means that everybody's going to be still standing behind me if something doesn't go right. They've done studies on warriors who have come back from Vietnam, from Afghanistan, and said, well, some people come back and they're actually okay, even though they've been involved in combat and they've dealt with really difficult circumstances. But what they've noticed is that they stayed within their code of conduct. And that the folks that just aren't doing okay is that they left that code, or their superior officers did. So we want, when we're creating our values or our code of conduct that protects us as we go bravely out into the world to do good work, is to have them to be 5 to 7 values maximum. And this is back to the brain. Our brains remember, it's why phone numbers are Well, they used to be 7 numbers. That's how we can remember them. You notice that they're broken up into, groups of 3 and 4. So we can only remember about 5 to 7. And one thing to know is that our values will challenge each other. So if I pick a value that I want to be honest in my integrity and I want to be kind, I get to practice figuring out how to be honestly kind. It's what does the mandorla of all of my values look like? Kind of creating a lotus flower. And that this is the good work, the great work, the warrior work. And so you're going to be including your code of conduct in your leadership plan, an important part as we think about it. So when in the plan, you're going to list 5 to 7 values you'd stand by no matter what, and create a description for each. For those of you who are working on teams, and especially as you're trying to create new teams and thinking about creating a team that holds collective care, this can be a core part of it, is having a conversation around what are our guiding principles, and not, oh, we need these to put in our annual report, but instead, what are we going to live by? What are we going to reflect on and meditate on deeply through our actions? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do an exercise together. I'd love for you to list, because we have time, yay, list 5 to 7 values that you would stand by no matter what. And I'll give everybody, let's see, about you 5 minutes to play with that. And again, this is an iterative process. So I know as I've done this, a couple hours later go, oh, I completely forgot this. So listing your 5 to 7 values. And if you have time, you can create a description. How might you describe what, in my case, what kindness means or compassion means? What that might mean to me. Five to 7 values and a description for each. I'm going to turn off the share if you don't mind. So I can love to get you. I know that this exercise is especially helpful when I can talk to other people. So 5 to 7 values, a description for each. And I'm going to create another set of breakout rooms so that you can get a little time to share. There we go. All right, so I'm going to feel about ready. You can give me thumbs up, or if you need a little more time, you can either raise your finger if I need 2 more minutes. 1 more minute. Okay, thank you, Patricia.
Okay.
Good. All right. I'm going to put you in groups of 3. Make sure I've given you, we're going to do 9 minutes. That should be more than enough. That should be enough. What you want to do is share with your partners. And as someone explains their value, you might ask, tell me more about what compassion means to you, or what integrity means to you. Very helpful as and learning from one another what you might have on your list. And I will see you back here in 9 minutes. All right. So noticing as we do this exercise, I think again, using feelings as our guide, going back to this idea of pleasure activism as that the power and the wisdom of our bodies can be so helpful. So noticing as I create my code of conduct, what kind of emotions arise, and how might I embody these values in my work? So how might they be my compass as I move forward? So I throw that out to hold as you dive in more on your personal leadership plan. And so our next, we've been debriefing and next steps. John was wonderful to ask about unpacking a bit more this idea of the personal SWOT analysis. We started to play with that, listing out our strengths and areas in which we might want to improve, the opportunities and threats. We're going to come back to this again when we start thinking about how we want to be remembered. But I wanted to just point out, I asked you to start with your strengths. This brings up the whole area of strengths-based leadership. And it is to, when you're filling that out or when you go back to it, is making sure you've got at least 10 strengths there. I find so often when I'm using this exercise, people want to go right away to, oh, but I'm impatient and I can be too passionate and, but if we start in our strengths, this brings us in from a place of gratitude, brings us into our neocortex, allows us to problem solve better. It is a resilience tool as well, is to keep, just as we are going back to our vision and values in the via negativa, is to go back to our strengths is another, is to remember, and sometimes it's, I know how to keep breathing in and out. I have, so to the end of the story of when I'm doing this conference this week, I finished last night, as I was saying, I was telling Patricia and many of you that I did a workshop, online workshop with I think 10 Peruvian State Department alumni. And we were bringing up this exercise, brought it forward, and it was wonderful because one of the women in the workshop said, "Oh, she had learned it. We'd done it together in the U.S. and she'd taken it back, and she'd been using it with teenage girls in Cusco." And she said, "I found this to be an extremely helpful exercise because one of the things that I asked my students to do is to go ask in their homes, what are my strengths?" So it gives a homework, it kind of creates this homework. And I want to pass this along to you, as she said, she says, this is your homework. Go home and, not only list your strengths, but ask what others might feel are your strengths. And it's good because instead of tell me how wonderful I am, it's a homework item. So it can be something to use with yourself as well. So often we don't see our own golden shadow. So I pass that along to you as another way. And continuing this exercise, just as you're doing a SWOT or analysis for an organization. When we do it for ourselves, it can take some time. So just holding these questions. So what are my strengths? What are where areas in which I want to improve? Or what do I feel like holds me back? What are potential opportunities I can take advantage of? And what might be things that are risks or threats? So, John, did you have any other questions about that before I finish us out?
Oh, no, that's very helpful. That gives me a good start.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, awesome. And we'll keep coming back to this. All right. So over the next week, we're going to complete our values section in the PLP. And again, you're not turning any of this in until after the 19th of May. So pace yourself in a way that works best for you. But this is kind of how I've paced the PLP, continuing to read from the source books. And please, again, just for even a half an hour once a week, is to reflect on what's coming up for you. Use this as an opportunity to fill your inner bucket, doing some kind of art. It's meditation. It can be working with the tarot. It can be watching your dreams. It can be collage. I'll just keep throwing out ideas as I hear of them. Watercolor, doodling, journaling, and allowing yourself to reflect and gather the riches that are arising within you. So to close, and then I can answer any questions, but I wanted to read this one more time. The wonderful John O'Donohue sending us out into the world over this next week. May the light of your soul bless your work with love and the warmth of heart. May you see in what you do the beauty of your soul. May the sacredness of your work bring light and renewal to those who work with you and to those who see and receive your work. May your work never exhaust you. May it release wellspring of refreshment, inspiration, and excitement. May you never become lost in bland absences. May the day never burden. May the dawn find hope in your heart, approaching the new day with dreams, possibilities, and promises. May evening find you gracious and fulfilled. May you go into the night blessed, sheltered, and protected. May your soul calm, console, and renew you. Rest and recover and reset. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Oh, what a treat to be with you all.